Hello, everybody. Welcome back to JavaScript Jabber, the podcast about JavaScript, and we jabber about it. My name is Steve Edwards, the host with the face for radio and the voice for being a mime, but I'm still your host. And flying with me today on our panel, we have the lovely and erudite Mr. AJ. How you doing, AJ?
I don't know what erudite means.
I forgot what it means too, but it sounded really good.
Well, I hope it's not like racist or something. Gosh.
No. It's a good thing, I think.
It's a good thing? Okay, great. Wait, that's not character for you, Steve. Anyway, yo.
I'm a
Coming
rebel.
at you live from Pioneer Back Pain.
Pioneer back pain. That means AJ hurt his back and he doesn't know how he did it, so it's very pioneering.
Well, it's Pioneer Day. Oh yeah, you wouldn't know about Pioneer Day because it's
No.
a Utah thing.
Yeah.
So it's Pioneer Day, and yesterday I was doing some work on my trailer, and I think that when I was lifting the front of it to prop it up so that I could get underneath of it, or I don't know, but then I got back pain. I woke up this morning and it just hurts. So hence Pioneer back pain. Because trailer's like a cart. It's like a hand cart or a carriage.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, AJ was reminding me of something about knowing about being old. I'm not sure why he was referencing that with me, but yeah, I was standing in my bedroom yesterday, stretching a little bit and felt my back go. So yeah, that was fun. Anyway, moving on from back pain, let's welcome our guest, Mr. Julien. How do you say that? Klepatch?
Yeah. Congrats. Yeah, it's very hot. Yeah.
All right. So Julien is French, calling us from Taiwan. So we, as I like to say, we are truly an international podcast. So start out, Julien, why don't you give us a little background about what you do, who you are, why you're famous, and we'll go from there.
All right. So yes, Julien from EatTheBlocks. Some of you may know me already. So I have a YouTube channel about Web3 development. So I teach things like Solidity, Ethereum, smart contract programming, that sort of thing. And yeah, I've started my career in finance and I became a dev. And then in 2017, I caught the crypto bug and started my YouTube channel at that time. And I switched to teaching Web3 full time a few years later, and so this is what I do.
So you were telling us before we started recording a little more detail about your history. So you said you started in Hong Kong in finance, is that right? That was probably still is a real world financial center, right? One of the places to be if you want to work in international finance.
Yeah, that was just an internship at first, and I extended it, and I ended up staying 3 years there. It was really amazing. At that time, like that place was just so active. It was like just amazing, and I got a little bit tired of finance, and so decided to come here to Taiwan. I just wanted to learn Chinese. I didn't really know what I wanted to do after, and at that time I met a bunch of interesting guys, including some so-called digital nomads. I mean, at that time, that was something new. And they basically sold me the dream. And this is how I decided to just give up on finance and just start to learn software dev. And so I started like everybody else with a shitty customer. I was with PHP and WordPress. And so first few years were not easy, but fortunately for me, I encountered crypto in 2017, and that's when everything changed.
All right, tell us more. Why did it change?
So, good question. I think I thought I really struggled a lot to get started in my career as a software dev at the beginning, especially when you're like a generalist and you work in web dev. You are like in this competing against so many different people, and there are just so many different ways, so many kind of expertise, and there are a lot of people who are already senior. And so ideally what you want to find is something new where there aren't a lot of senior people, so that basically if you specialize in this, it's easier to stand out. And that was really the case with crypto. And I also really fell in love with the concept. So I thought, well, that's a good fit. And so what I did at that time is that instead of just learning a new technical thing, I also created my YouTube channel. And thanks to that, everything changed because I built my personal brand and I found my first remote job like very, very fast. So that was really the main thing that changed.
So for the topic today, the way you were putting it was it how to get into Web3 or why to get into Web3 or all of the above? I guess the question for me is considering the state of crypto and where things have been over the past few months, why? Just for a little bit of recap, we've had the whole collapse of FTX with Sam Bankman-Fried, and we've seen some other coins really tank just because, crypto is basically very speculative, right? It's kind of what's the value, sort of like a stock market. And, Bitcoins that were worth a ton of money have lost value. So I guess my question would be, is it sort of like, if you think about the stock market where you want to get in when it's low because you can't really go any lower and the only way it can go is up? Is that the reason? Or maybe there's other purposes that haven't been, how we say, explored or investigated yet? What would you tell somebody if they said, why should I get into the Web3 world?
Yeah, yes, good question. So I would generally say, like, of course, the earlier you get in, the easier it is. So the more you wait, the harder it will get. But yes, on top of this, crypto is very cyclical. So when I started, it was just before a big bubble. So actually, my timing was perfect. And for me, it was quite easy to get in. And I don't think that, to set the expectation clearly, I don't think that a newbie would find a job as easily as I did. The market is a little bit more difficult now. But we are between two cycles, and we are probably at the end of a bear market, or more or closer to the end than the beginning. And so you want to get in before the next bull market, because when there is a bull market, everything happens just so fast, and you cannot just come in and say, "Oh yeah, by the way, I was always a big fan of Web3." You need to show that you've done something before. So that requires a leap of faith. That's true, but uh, I think we've been really tested this year and last year. Like, we've been tested like crazy, like you said, like FTX and like all the bad stuff that happened, and like the SEC trying to get after crypto. And I think what's really interesting is that we had this accumulation of bad news, but at some point the market stopped to tank. And so, there is a saying, like, if you want to know where is the top of the bull market, is when you have more good news that accumulate and the price stop to go up. And the bottom of the bear market is when you have more bad news and it stopped to go down. And I think it's what's happening now. And I started to see some rebound, like not only on the market, but also in terms of developer interest. I see like it's coming back. So that's a good thing. But I would say another thing very important to understand is like to also separate this cycle from the actual the cycle of the developer who built things, because these things aren't entirely correlated. And so during this bear market, we had a lot of activity on the developer side, especially when it comes to infrastructure. And like one of the main technical challenge in Web3 is to make this blockchain scalable. And there was a lot of work that was done. And I think that either by the end of this year or by next year, in Web3, we will solve the problem of scalability. And that's huge.
So how is this not an MLM? Because you're
MLM.
No, because you're not saying, hey, this is what's going to make it usable. You're out of the gate. You're not saying, hey, this is how we're going to solve an economic problem. Out of the gate, you're saying, if you want to make the money, you got to get in now. And that's just an MLM. So like, where's the utility?
Yeah.
So you're not asking how it's not an MLM in the sense that, hey, I got to sell the downline to all my friends. You're saying MLM is in the sense that, you kind of have to talk fast and sell easy to get people in. while it's still not really a business.
Hold on,
Is that
time
what you're
out.
asking?
Before
No,
we
by
go on, let's define
MLM.
MLM. Can we define MLM before we go on and everybody gets confused like me?
Okay,
Yeah,
so MLM,
traditionally, go ahead.
so MLM is where you create an entity that the government will allow that does not have a product that anyone wants to buy, but you buy the product as part of becoming a manager so that you can then make the money off of other people who buy the product to become a manager. So the product is basically a scapegoat. There is no product. It's like granola bars that cost $10 a box that you can get for $3 a box at Walmart that are name brand granola bars for $3 a box, right? But the MLM granola bars are $10 a box. And you don't buy the granola bars because you're going to eat the granola bars or sell the granola bars. You buy the granola bars to become a manager. And when you're a manager, then other people who buy the granola bars, you get a percentage of their revenue. And that models the quote unquote crypto space for quote unquote investors, is that investors, especially on Ethereum, they get some Ethereum and then they make a coin and then they get other people into the coin and then they can make another coin and they get people into that coin by trading the first coin. And so it's the same thing as the granola bars. You've got a bunch of quote unquote coins. Nobody wants them. Nobody can use them, but you buy them so that you can then trade them for another coin and somebody else who's in the management group of that coin. And so you just have a bunch of coins where there's no value. No one's trading the coins for granola bars. No one's trading the coins for a house payment or groceries or fast food. Nobody's actually using the website Bitrefill, which is a coin. That's a website that you actually can use to actually spend a cryptocurrency rather than quote invest in a cryptocurrency. But like when I think of cryptocurrency in the Satoshi Nakamoto sense, that's I'm going to create something that we can spend, that we can create value by creating an economy, versus the quote unquote investments, which is where you're going to invest in it so that you can be at the top of the coin hype, and then you can go create another coin to be at the top of that coin hype.
Yeah. Okay, I just want to throw something in here real quick. I have seen MLMs actually work and actually sell products that people wanted to buy. But yes, most of them, it was you got in fast so you could get the biggest downline you could get so that you could sell more stuff to other people. So I just want to say the characterization fits a lot of them, but not all of them. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's a fair question. So, okay, so let me recap. When I first got into crypto, the thing that really appealed to me is Ethereum. On the landing page, it was written, we're building the world, a decentralized computer. I found that was really awesome. And
yeah, that's a cool idea.
Yeah, like I saw that, and that really what convinced me to get into it. And actually, it's funny because like for many years, I was so innocent. Like I was like the only crypto developer that didn't buy any crypto. For a long time, now it's ridiculous. Like I could have gotten like really rich because I was really early, but I didn't buy any Ether or something like this. And the first time I started to own some crypto is because people bought my courses with crypto. So that's how I ended up owning crypto. But for a long time, I didn't play this game. And at some point, after spending several years in the industry, it appears to me, I'm like, hey, Julien, like maybe you're a little bit naive, and maybe there are like many people who get in the space and who just want to make money and have no interest at all for the value of Web3. And so. And yeah, it pisses me off at some point, but I just learn to live with it. Like I just think like whenever you have some new innovation, something like this, it will always attract like many different people who may or may not share the same value as you. And also, I don't want to be too judgmental on that because for many people, it's not one thing or the other. It can I embrace the fact that we have different motivation, and it's cool if you say, okay, I share some value of Web3, but I also want to make money. It's fine. You don't have to be like pure and just go in one of these one of these two directions. And talking of like the MLM and like selling dreams, but I want to say that isn't it what the software industry is doing even outside of Web3? For example, when you have a founder that's trying to raise money
Here we go.
no, I mean, from VC, and I know it very well because I was approached. Actually, I had an investor. So at the peak of my business during the bull market, there was an investor that invested in my company, and so that guy, so he was very well connected and introduced me to some VC, and he helped me to write a story that would prove that my business would like go up like crazy, and that's completely accepted in the business world. So I just want people to not be naive and understand like a large part of the business world works like this, like people who sell stories. So selling a story in itself, I don't think it's bad, but you have to really believe in the story, of course. Yeah.
All right. So what I'm curious about, because it feels like we're talking about investing in cryptocurrencies, and I'm not a financial expert. I'm not an investment expert. I think the whole idea behind a lot of this stuff is fascinating. And I think it's interesting how it became an investment class rather than a currency is also fascinating. But what I want to understand is Web3, right? It's because you're talking about like blockchain technologies as the successor to web technologies, or used in conjunction with web technologies, or something like that. And I don't completely understand what the story is with Web3. So, I mean, maybe the crypto investment has something to do with it. Maybe it doesn't. But how does what we're talking about tie into what Web3 is? Like, where is this all going?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So crypto has a special place in Web3 because that's the main use case of Web3 right now. But it doesn't mean it's going to be the only use case. And
define Web3 then.
Okay,
yeah, that's what we need first, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, I was thinking Web3, cryptocurrency is Web3, but you're saying there's Web3 and cryptocurrency is a use case. So yeah, what's the dealio?
Okay, so Web3 is the idea of building decentralized applications, so application that nobody in particular control. The idea of decentralization is really probably like the main idea of crypto, and the main component of a Web3 app is the blockchain layer, but not only. You can also use projects like IPFS, which are a decentralized storage network. They are decentralized, but they are not blockchain. But the core of it is like, does it help my app to be more decentralized or not? So that's,
and just to clarify, when people say dApps, DAPPS, that's the decentralized app idea we're talking about, right?
Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
And so with Web3,
does that apply to things like Mastodon?
So I think Mastodon,
Matrix.
I think they
because they're federated. They're not.
I don't think a lot of Web3 people would consider this like real Web3 app, and also I think like the admin have like way too much power. So it's like maybe like an attempt in this direction, but
okay,
yeah, and but yeah, so with Web3, like of course the main use case was to create all these cryptocurrencies, but it's like so much more than this. And for example, social media. We had all these problems with censorship in the past. So that's an area where Web3 can help. Actually, this year, so one of the few area of Web3 that has traction is social media. So there are a few of them that you may not have heard, like Lens, for example, that are basically attempt to build new social media on the blockchain. But what's really interesting is when you do something in Web3, the paradigm change a little bit. It's not just you take an app and you make it in Web3. It's more like you build this layer that can be viewed as a common good, and you can use this layer to build different social media. So the paradigm is a little bit different.
So just to clarify that a little bit, how does the paradigm different? So is the social good like the collection of posts or tweets or whatever you want to call them, and that way nobody has total control, and so they can't censor it? Is that kind of the way you're heading there?
Yeah, you have this layer, this protocol where people post content, and then you have different way to access them, and so it will be different app. Like you will have like maybe a Twitter that can be built on this, a Facebook or something else. But at no
Right.
point that there will be someone who control the API and say, all right, I'm not sharing the data anymore, or oh, now you have to pay this much per month. Yeah.
Right. So the app that I would build that is centralized, that consumes this common good, there I could say, hey, I don't want porn, I don't want swear words or whatever, right? And then how I display it is how it goes. But if somebody wants the porn and the swear words, they can go to somebody who will put that up.
Yeah, exactly. So introduces a lot of flexibility. And on the finance side, it's the same thing. So you have apps like Uniswap, which are basically decentralized exchange. You can see them at like some sort of decentralized stock market, and they provide an infrastructure, a base layer, and on top of this, we have many other projects that are being built. So it's really a different way to build software. It's much more open, much more transparent, and you don't need anybody authorization.
All right. So, sorry, I feel like I got on and hogged the mic, but go ahead, AJ.
I was just going to ask, so are there any examples that you can give of a Web3 app that somebody would know? Like, for example, Mastodon is fully decentralized. It's completely federated. So that at least fills that criteria, or at least the way I understand that it is.
Right. But each Mastodon server has an admin that can, and you can turn off federation between instances and stuff like that. So it's not a common good that you're consuming as far as the posts go.
It's not 100%. It's not centralized. It's not centralized into a single node. It's decentralized such that each node can have its own set of rules, operate independently, and scale efficiently. But anyway, my point is, so most people don't know about Mastodon. If I were to ask my wife if she's got a Mastodon account, she might not even know what Mastodon means in the normal sense, right? But within a crowd, people know what Mastodon is. It's like, quote unquote, Twitter decentralized. Is there some sort of app in Web3 where there's some sort of analogy? This is like X, but decentralized, something where people could go to see it or download a thing to experience it, to have a sense of what that is.
Yeah, so I can give a few names. I think most people will have never heard of these things. The thing that got the most mainstream during the last bull market was more the financial assets that you can buy with crypto. So the tokens, the NFTs, for example. But in terms of app, so some people might have heard of OpenSea, for example. It's a decentralized market to buy and sell NFTs. People might have heard of Uniswap, where you can buy and sell crypto tokens.
Is there anything for stuff that people already do? Like messaging is something people already do. It wasn't invented by Web 2, right? People were already messaging back when we had horse and buggies. But not that I'm saying we need to go back that far, because obviously technology provides new opportunities. But is there something that people already do that they would say, oh yeah, here's an app for something I already do, I could use this app instead?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there's this social media called Lens that I can explore. So I don't actually, there are the Lens, LENS. So that's the name of the protocol. Yeah, but to use it, you need to use some apps. So I'm not familiar with the most popular apps on Lens, but you can type Lens clients and you'll find the different options. So that would be one example. Another example, a little bit more old school, is it Steemit. It's basically a decentralized medium where you can write article and get paid for them. That's a bit old school.
Was that again?
That Steemit, STEEMIT.
Okay, cool. I haven't heard of that one. So I haven't heard of either of these. I'm checking them out though, because that sounds interesting. That sounds like that's something I already do. I already blog. I already use social media.
Yeah,
That fits my criteria perfectly.
Yeah, so the reason why I meant so just to finish with Steam, it's a bit old school. So it seems like the project is not going anywhere. But during the last bull market, it was quite active, and I think like one of the success of this might be Lens, but with more features.
Right. So what I'm trying to figure out as far as this goes, and as far as our audience goes, is I look at Web3, and for one, as somebody who works in the current web as it's currently constituted, why should I worry about this, or why should I be learning about it? And the other kind of related question is, okay, so you've talked about kind of the blockchain and the ideas behind blockchain and crypto, and then you talked about decentralization. And so what I'd really like to know is, before you answer why should I care, is I'm still trying to get my head around what is this. So how does the blockchain play into the decentralization? Is it just that common or public good could be a blockchain, or is there more to it than that? And then, how does it become the successor to Web 2 to the point where I should actually worry about it?
So actually, I think Web3 is probably a bad name because it makes people feel like it's the next iteration of the web, but it's not.
And
really,
it's not? Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. It's more like a new, an evolution of the web. In the future, in your web application, you will have to incorporate the concept of decentralization, and you will use some of the technology like blockchain or or IPFS. But if you look at what is Adapt nowadays, it really look and feel like a Web 2 application, except it's more clunky. Because the UI, it's true. It's one of the biggest barriers to adoption. The UI UX is terrible with the wallet, and it's just not as easy to use. But I think it really makes sense for people to get back the ownership over what they produce, their content, and this is something that you can get with Web3. And we really see that how social media are changing now. There's really a wind of change. So I really think that in the future people will demand this more and more. And in terms of finance, so this one is a little bit more deep, but why should you care from a financial perspective? This one is more political. We have this geopolitical change where the US is being challenged, and the monetary system is being challenged. And so actually for all of these countries, crypto is an opportunity to challenge the dollar. So all the people who say, oh, like the US is going to destroy crypto because this goes against the interest of the US dollar, etc. I think that's not true, because we are in this special period, and so crypto as there is like some very deep topic around crypto. It's not just a technology.
All right, so effectively, So let me just break this down a little bit further. I may get some of this wrong, because this is some of just what I've kind of tangentially heard or read or whatever. But effectively, what I'm figuring out then is, some of this, like the data, might go into some kind of blockchain that may be a kind of a public good that decentralizes control over what goes into it. Right? You're talking about blog posts or Twitter posts or whatever. The other thing that I'm hearing is something around wallets and NFTs, where the NFT isn't a picture of a horse and a dragon fighting it out, but it's actually it's an NFT that says you have access to this video series, or you have access to this this conference, right? So a conference ticket could be an NFT, or all the way down to like the deed of your house being an NFT or something like it. And so and I don't know how, I'm not going to make a value judgment on any of this, because I really don't have a good feel for, how deep any of this is going to go, or where the change is going to be. But what you're talking about then is, so Web3 is going to begin to adopt these things because people don't want to tie their identity to a GitHub or a Facebook or something. They're much more comfortable, as they learn about technology, to tie it to a wallet that they control, and so, identity is going to come out of Web3. Some of these resources could be stored in a Web3 format, like we talked about. And so as we're talking about Web3, what we're talking about is kind of a layer on top of Web2 that allows you to control your data and your access and your identity to the point where you don't have these centralized systems telling the internet who you are. You kind of control how that happens yourself. And then they just grant you, tokens, permissions, access, NFTs, whatever, to basically set up your experience on the web to be what you want it to be.
Yeah, that's correct. So yes, really the blockchain is the core of Web3 app, and
right.
Everything you own, your identity. This is not a solved problem actually today. It's the launch of WorldCoin, the project of Sam Altman of the Y Combinator.
OpenAI.
Yeah. So that's probably it's going to be one of the biggest crypto launch of this year, and this is a very, very hard problem. And so everything, as you said, like all the blockchain layer is based on Web2. So we are really building on top of what already exists. But the way it works, the logic of it is completely different because once all the program so we call this a smart contract, all the program that are on the blockchain, once you deploy them, it's impossible to stop them. You cannot say, all right, you don't run anymore. I'm going to pause you. No, they'll deploy and everybody can execute them forever. So it's a completely different paradigm compared to Web2 apps. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to have the Web2 app that will progressively incorporate more and more of this Web3 concept. But for most of the Web2 app, it will still stay Web2 app. For example, you take a game. Most of the game doesn't need to be on the blockchain. Actually, the blockchain is very inefficient. It costs a lot of money. But it's just those core bits that are very important. For example, in-game assets. People want to be able to retain ownership over this because they work so hard for this. Like they work for months to level up their Diablo player or something like this. So they so this is just some bits of the Web2 app will be put into Web3.
That's interesting. So you mentioned then that the experience with this is kind of clunky, right? So, incorporating your wallet per se into, or your identity or whatever into your web browser and things like that. I've done a little bit of that, and yes, it's pretty clunky. So do you think that, what did you call it, WorldCoin or something like that Sam Altman's coming out with?
WorldCoin, yeah.
So how do you think these problems get solved in the future, or do we just not know yet?
Okay, so the world of Web3 is super active. Like so all people hear about is like the price of crypto, etc. But actually, the community is like so resourceful, and you have a lot of super smart people who are always coming up with solutions. So, for example, in terms of UI UX, a major improvement this year will be the smart contract wallet. So, which means that your wallet, instead of being just a private key, will actually be a smart contract. And this will be part of this will be made possible by a change to the protocol layer of Ethereum. And so with this new kind of wallet, you'll have a lot of feature like social recovery. For example, if you forgot your private key, then a couple of your friends can help you to unlock your wallet. A few things that will make it less clunky. So in terms of the UI UX, there was some big progress, but we still have some progress to do. Yeah.
So just to back up and help people understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I really am an amateur at this. I've talked to a few people and I kind of have some idea, but with the wallet being a smart contract, what you're saying is your wallet is no longer just a private key that says, hey, I'm going to sign transactions and things like that. But now it's actually a program, because a smart contract's a program, if I understand correctly. And so it's going to have those capabilities like recovery and things like that, because there's going to be code that actually executes against your wallet as you authorize.
Yes, that's correct. And then like you can imagine all sort of innovation for your wallet. Like, for example, if you want to implement some maximum spending, that can be coded. You can also, in terms of spending authorization, it's also more simple. there are like a lot of behavior that you can embed in the logic. So that's really interesting. And so really the two big thing at the infrastructure level are the UI UX and then the scaling issue. But the scaling issue is probably going to be solved by next year. So most of the people right now in the space are focused on this at the infrastructure level. However, what we don't have enough of is people who are working on actual use case. And so a lot of people in Web3 are aware of this. And so in the future, probably you're going to have a shift from the infrastructure to the app layer.
Right. So sorry, I feel like I'm monopolizing this conversation. It's so fascinating to me. So the question that I have next is, okay, so I'm a web developer, right? Build stuff in, whatever backend. I have a JavaScript front end. People who know me know I'm probably working in Rails on the back end, but however that goes together, how do I start adding some of these features in, right? So let's say that I'm selling courses, which is something that I'm doing, but right now, effectively I use something like Stripe. They send me a webhook. I know that you own it, but yeah, it'd be kind of interesting to have it where, you have the token that I gave you or something that indicates that you bought a copy of my course. And so you just forever and ever and ever have that token. And I forever and ever and ever, as long as you come to my site, you get whatever you bought. How do I start building that into my web application? Either to be ready for these innovations if they come up in a year, or to be on the cutting edge if people are interested in that.
Yeah, so the most simple way you can do it is by using some existing API. So you have many crypto API that let you access this smart contract and through a Web2 interface.
Okay.
So that's the fastest, but it's not very fun because you don't see any of the Web3 stuff. It's just
right.
like a regular REST API. So if you have more time and you want to...
if I'm a business and I just want it in, that's a good way to go, right?
Yeah.
I don't need to know how it works. I just want to know that it works. Great.
Yeah, but you just have to know that in this case, it's not decentralized because you are at the mercy of the API.
Of whoever your provider is. Okay, good to know.
Yeah. But for a lot of people, it's an okay trade-off. And then the other solution would be to interface directly with the smart contract. So that's the next level in terms of difficulty. It's not too difficult, but you'll have to learn a little bit, for example, the Solidity programming language to be able to read a smart contract and understand what a function does. And then you have to contend with the limitation of blockchain node. That all sort of little issue, all sort of quirks you have to deal with. And the last, the most advanced level of integration in your Web3 journey, the most advanced stuff you can do is build a full Web3 app, including at the protocol level, at the smart contract layer. So you will create your own smart contract and on the blockchain that potentially could also interact with other smart contracts. But that's really next level. And one of the main caveat in this case is that on the blockchain, security is really hard because once you deploy your smart contract, it's impossible to change it. So if there is any bug in your smart contract and a hacker find it, it's going to drain all the funds of your user potentially. And then you have things like security audits that can be done to reduce this risk, but these are extremely expensive. So as a builder, you have to be aware of this, like that security is a big deal.
So in everything you've talked about so far, it sounds like you're exclusively talking about only Ethereum. So when people say Web3, are they generally they just mean Ethereum? They don't mean a broader concept? It's just like Ethereum is Web3, everything else is something else?
Yeah, right. So in theory, Web3 is everything decentralized. It could be Ethereum, IPFS, etc. But in practice, most of Web3 happen nowadays on Ethereum. But people need to understand that Ethereum. So there is a difference between the technology and a network. So Ethereum is both a technology and a network, but there are a lot of other networks that are based on the technology of Ethereum. For example, Optimism, Arbitrum, etc. But that is the dominant technology. You can see it a little bit like the Linux of Web3. And so all the ecosystem that is being built is really around this. I think it's pretty much a settled case. So yeah, you have a lot of other blockchain projects like Solana, or who use other tech stack that trying to sell you that the tech stack is better. But at this point, it's like almost irrelevant, because how do you say like this? I have, what's the name of this technical word? Like when your network has grown, so network effect. Yeah. So at this point, network effect is so big that Ethereum has won already. And if there's any technological improvement from another project, it will just be incorporated into Ethereum. That's it.
Sounds like the whole thing's rather, you ready for this, Steve? Rather ethereal. Anyway.
Sorry.
There we go. That was what I was waiting for.
You caught me off guard. Sorry.
That's really interesting, though. But if I wanted to spin up my own network, I could. It's just that then I have to get people to adopt it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty much pointless now. There were like countless of alternative blockchain that try to get started in the past with like billions and billions poured in this project. Like, for example, EOS. Like EOS was like the biggest ICO of all time. I think they raised something like $4 billion, like absolutely insane. And that completely forgotten, like off the map. So yeah, it's pointless to do that. But so nowadays what happened is like, so you have this Ethereum is the layer 1, and then you have this ecosystem of so-called layer 2 blockchain. So these are basically scaling solution for Ethereum. So you can see them as like secondary blockchain, and they help to solve the problem of scalability. And now we start to see a new paradigm start to emerge, where we start to talk of app-specific chain. So in practice, these are layer 2 chain connected to Ethereum, but it's like one chain per app. We don't know yet if it's going to be, if this paradigm is going to hold. But yeah, that's the evolution of things.
As somebody from the Web 2 world, one of the nice things about Web 2 is that all Web 2 is compatible with all Web 2, right? So if I write a program in Node, the protocol layer defines how the protocol layer is the decentralization, right? So I write a program in Node, it can talk to a program that's written in Go. A program in Go can talk to a program that's written in Java. You can talk to a program that accepts exploits via C, and so no matter which stack I use, the thing that makes it decentralized is that there's a common protocol that all of the stacks can talk to each other. I can spin up something that internally has completely different details and has its own APIs and then all I have to do is document those APIs and somebody else can consume them. And so we don't have to have perfect agreement. We don't have to all run the exact same protocol. We don't have to all, it's not like a hive mind. Everybody can operate independently, but then can come together and exchange. And it sounds like, well, if everybody just adopts Ethereum, then that kind of works. But that would be like saying that everybody has to use, I don't know, like the GitHub API is the only API, and you can't have any other APIs. Or maybe that's where but this would only be for money, because there's the whole decentralized exchange, which is like the idea that you can have different APIs and they can exchange stuff, but then I think that only works for money. So is there anything in the Web3 space that has that quality that you can make independent decisions and then resolve what that means in a relationship later? I don't know if that makes sense.
So a smart contract in Ethereum can only talk to another smart contract on Ethereum. So if you have another blockchain and another smart contract there, it cannot talk to it directly. Now there are solutions that exist like bridges, but the problem with bridges is that they are not decentralized. We don't know yet how to do a decentralized bridge. And also bridges are more prone to hacks. So this isn't a solved problem right now. If you want to have compatibility, it has to be within the same blockchain. Now, what happened with with this layer 2 is that there are ways basically to have smart contract in different layer 2 chain, and then to somehow lift some part of the state in the layer 1 so that you can still benefit from the trust of the layer above you. So these are some kind of integration that are being done, but between blockchain, the communication is more difficult. This being said, in the future, when the Ethereum 2.0 will be completely rolled out, the architecture will be with shards. So you have some sort of mini blockchain that are able to communicate through essential layer. So things are being done to advance in this direction, but this is complicated.
You saying the word shard is good, because definitionally, if something doesn't scale, it's not decentralized. That's one of the the 3 litmus test tenets of decentralization, is that it scales. And currently, I've not heard of anything in the blockchain space that scales. So if that actually happens and they introduce a form of sharding that allows nodes to act independently and reconcile later, that brings us a lot closer to what I was talking about earlier. So that's cool.
So scaling is a really very exciting issue, a topic. You have different layer to this. So first at the protocol level, so Ethereum 2.0 with the different shards, and then the next part of it is all this so-called layer 2 blockchain. So that scale even more. And so Vitalik Buterin said that once Ethereum 2.0 will be implemented, plus with this layer 2 scaling solution, potentially, so I hope I'm not making a mistake, I think he said that it could scale potentially to 100,000 transactions per second, which is more than even Visa processes per second. So it has a lot of, there are a lot of things that are being done in this direction. But the general idea is that you won't have one giant blockchain that has absolutely all the data. Part of the data will be in lower level, and we will only go in upper level when we want to when we have some issue. For example, if someone disagree with a computation that was done at a lower level, then we can go at an upper level to basically settle the case, like for courts, for example.
So one of the reasons that almost none of the blockchains other than Dogecoin and Dash have been usable, and Litecoin have been usable for money, is that the transaction fees on Ethereum and Bitcoin and most of the ones that get the hype because of quote unquote investment, the transaction fees are so exorbitantly high that you'd be paying 50 to 100 times more than what the product costs. If I wanted to buy a bottle of water, but it cost me $50 or $60 or $70 in transaction fees, which I think has been the case with both Bitcoin and Ethereum, that obviously I can't afford to pay a $50 transaction fee for a 79-cent bottle of water. So if this thing happens with the sharding, does that mean that the transaction fees will get to a point that Ethereum could be used for money?
Yeah, so that was one of the main problems of the last bull market. So with this architecture, where you have all these different shards and all these different layer 2, basically, especially at the layer 2 level, you trade security for less expensive transaction fees. So now for a lot of new projects, they are not even deploying Ethereum. They are deployed directly on layer 2 blockchain like Polygon, Arbitrum, etc. And the transaction fees are much less. So yeah, in the future, this is really the direction where it's going, like way smaller blockchain that aren't the main blockchain, but are connected to the main blockchain.
So that's if I have to wait for quote unquote confirmations, I can't spend the money, right? Because if I'm gonna walk up to you and I'm gonna scan your QR code and I'm gonna pay you the equivalent of $5, for me to stand there and wait for the next hour for all these confirmations to come through before I can say, okay, you got the $5. I didn't cheat you out of your money. You didn't cheat me out of anything. Like it worked. So if you have to take away the security in order to have lower fees, does that mean that like we just have to wait for 1 million transactions so I won't know if you got the money until tomorrow? Or like, what's the deal there?
So you don't take away the security, you just reduce it, but it's still very safe and it's still extremely difficult to attack a layer 2 blockchain. I think to this date, we haven't heard of any hack like this. But if you are transacting a very large amount of money, let's say like millions, perhaps that is still advised to do it on the layer 1. So depending, you can choose the level of security that you want based on the importance of the transaction.
Okay. So do you know what do transactions resolve in for Ethereum in general right now? Is it you used to have to wait an hour? Do you have to wait 10 minutes?
So a block confirmation is 15 second.
Really?
Now, yeah, 15 second. So if you really want to make sure that there won't be any chain reorganization, you want to wait a few blocks, but that's quite fast. And for layer 2, I think depending on the chain, but it's even faster than this, can be a few seconds.
Okay, so was I just completely mistaken? Because I actually have not really followed Ethereum. But it was Ethereum. Did it used to be like you had to wait an hour and now they've changed it so that you only have to wait, 15, 30 seconds? Or
no, I think you are referring to Bitcoin. For Bitcoin, yes, it was advised to wait for a certain number of confirmation that was about 1 hour.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, that's cool.
Good deal. Well, unless there's something specific to building distributed apps using some of these technologies, I'm kind of inclined to push us toward Pix, but I don't want to leave anybody high and dry if you have another question.
I do want to know, how does this apply to JavaScript? Because this sounds like stuff that is happening probably in a C++ server application that some group of people are running, and not something that I could like use from a web page, for example.
So if you're a JavaScript guy and you want to build on the Web3, it's easy. You just build the integration from the front end. So as I said before, either by using an API or by integrating with the smart contract directly. And there are some libraries that you can use that allow you to interact with the smart contract really, really easily. So it's just an API call. And actually, so generally you won't run your own Ethereum node, but generally you will use a blockchain API. So there are like basically two levels of blockchain API. Either you use something really high level where it's a REST API that does a very specific action, or it's like a low level blockchain API that just allow you to interact with any smart contract. But you have to tell it exactly, okay, which smart contract, which function, which argument. But it's basically like calling a function and providing argument. It's the same thing.
So is it like I'm connecting to Coinbase to do this, or is it I get a list of Ethereum nodes and I connect them to them directly, or how does that?
Yeah, so you can use a bunch of blockchain API, like for example, Infura is one of them, QuickNode, Alchemy. There are a bunch of these, and they run Ethereum node for you, and they expose the Web2 interface to you, but with the same exact endpoint as the Ethereum node. So for you, it's actually transparent. But if you're courageous, you can run your own Ethereum node, but it's a lot of work because it has high requirement for your machine. I think the blockchain now is like something like 1 terabyte or something like this. It's not every machine can sync this. So, but there is a lot of work that is being done for so-called light client, which would allow which can be run from mobile phone, for example. So, yeah.
Dang.
So
that's gonna, as that, being the terabyte, that pushes almost every home user out. Most laptops aren't sold with a terabyte of storage.
That's, yeah. So if people are interested in that, they need to check out the light. What's the technical term for that? Lightweight client. So yeah. They are like a new generation of client that are being built for smaller device. Yeah. But this is really what I love about blockchain is like you have all these problems, and in each of these area with the big problem like scalability, UI, UX, the problem of the Ethereum node that requires too much very powerful hardware. You have a lot of people working on each of these problems, and progress are being made. So that's fascinating, basically.
Very cool. All right, now I am going to push us to wrap up. But Julien, if people have questions, if they have, if they get stuck, I mean, what's a good resource?
Yeah, so they can go
to find
on
you and to Sorry.
Yeah, so they can check out my channel, EatTheBlocks, on YouTube, and they can also reach out to me on Twitter.
Very cool. What's your handle on Twitter?
It's J Klepatch, Klepatch, TCH.
Awesome.
Sorry. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, let's go ahead and do our picks. AJ, you want to start us with picks?
Yeah, let's see here. First thing I'm going to pick is Dash. I've mentioned before I work for Dash Incubator. That has transitioned to becoming my primary source of income. So I have an extreme sense of bias in that, but if anything, I don't believe that blockchains are a solution for basically anything but money, and not that necessarily a blockchain has to be a solution to money, but that there are, that people talk about the general's problem and yada yada. There are certain things that a blockchain is not the worst possible solution for getting consensus over a group of untrusted parties. I would like to see scaling blockchains. So that wouldn't be a chain, it would be a tree. But Git, basically what Git does. Git is perfectly verifiable from one hash to another hash. You can work asynchronously. You can come back and reconcile things later, like the whole idea of the PR process, whatever. But okay, all that aside, I think that I'm not aware of any more work or effort that's gone into making it easy to spend an international currency than what Dash has done. And in terms of for developers, you'll notice when you look at these libraries, almost all of them are based on work that's 10, 15 years old, older than cryptocurrencies are themselves, of course, because a lot of these libraries were created circa 2009, 2010, 2011, and they were relying on JavaScript cryptography libraries because web crypto wasn't a thing yet, that were built in, 2006, 2007, whatever. So there's a lot of stuff out there that you want to pull in something to generate a wallet address. You're pulling in 4 megabytes of legacy code. And with Dash, we do have code that has been written within the last 2 years for wallets, addresses, key signing, using Noble Crypto, which Noble Crypto is one of the, so as you may know, a lot of the cryptography in, they say don't roll your own crypto, but a lot of the blockchain people just decided to do it anyway. And they came up with, they either used algorithms that are obscure or they came up with their own stuff. And that's where a lot of the security vulnerabilities have come from. But over time, there have been some actually audited crypto libraries that are audited for security, and Noble Crypto is one of those. So anyway, there's a collection of tools I'll provide a link to that we have, that if you're interested in the money aspect, there's some people that want to do the dApp thing and all that, but if you're interested in the money aspect, I would not recommend investing in Dash or any cryptocurrency, because that defies the whole idea of money, because you don't I mean, people short the dollar or short the euro or short whatever, and they run investment scams, but that's different. That's a different category than money. Like, I'm going to go buy a bottle of water or a pack of gum or a video game or a skateboard or, go to a flea market or a mops, whatever. So I think that Dash has a good shot at actually fulfilling that niche of money. And I'll give a link to some of the tools that we have. They're lightweight. They run in the browser. They run in Node. They use web crypto. They use audited cryptography libraries. That it's basically the best of the bunch. And so I'll plug that. That's what I'll do. And then I'm going to give a shout out to Harbor Freight because, dang, it's just convenient. It's just so convenient. I'm so glad I discovered Harbor Freight. It's like, in a lot of cases, cheap, crappy tools that are going to break when you push them beyond their recommended limits. But in a lot of cases, they're things that just work surprisingly well for a couple bucks less. And it's nice that they kind of, Harbor Freight has stuff that nowhere else has, like a motorcycle lift. You can't get that at Lowe's. And they have the kind of stuff that like as a dude working in your garage, they have the kind of stuff that you need. And I don't quite know how to explain it, but it's like, it's very different from Home Depot or Lowe's. The selection is much smaller, which is probably why their prices are less. They don't have to supply every possible thing. They give you a lot of the tools that are going to break often anyway, because they're the type of tools that get abused a lot anyway. And I just, I'm happy to have discovered Harbor Freight, and I don't have one super close by. I go a little south or a little north, I can get to one, and it's nice. So I'm going to give a shout out to Harbor Freight.
So you mentioned cheap tools. I do have to say that I have never bought a tool at Harbor Freight that broke that I couldn't just take back. They're always good about that. So yeah,
I bought a motorcycle lift and it broke, and they won't take it back.
Oh, okay.
Well, what broke was the handle. It's an ATV lift, and the handle that you use to push and pull it around, that broke off. I could have paid $30 more or gotten the warranty. That on their things like their screwdrivers, all of their screwdrivers and their wrenches, I think all the Pittsburgh brand comes with a lifetime warranty. You just take it back. But basically anything that costs more than $10, you have to buy the warranty on. So if you're looking between the thing that's $150 and the thing that's $180, never ever buy the thing that's less expensive when you get into their stuff that's $100 and the spread is, $20.
Yep. Yeah, I tell when my wife asks where I'm going, if I'm going to Harbor Freight, I tell her I'm going to the toy store. So, and I'm not kidding. I really do. I tell her we're going to the toy store. Usually taking my father-in-law. Going to the toy store. Don't spend too much money. All right. Steve, what are your picks? Oh, or do you have something else? AJ. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
I will say, following up there, that Harbor Freight is really cool. Around where I live, it's right down the street from Home Depot.
So, same here.
So yeah, I've gone in there before and found some stuff for cheaper. It's a good place. Shoot, AJ left. I have a pick that I know he will appreciate. So here's AJ. Okay, so earlier in the episode, I called AJ a term, and he was slightly offended. And that was erudite. AJ, I thought you would like to know this, that the term erudite means having or showing great knowledge or learning.
Cool.
So if you describe someone as erudite, you mean that they have or show great academic knowledge. So
I feel like this is a catch-22 because an erudite should know that.
Right. Well, I didn't say I was. Oh, that's true. Yeah. It's like the, when I knocked on the door to visit my psychic, and she said, "Who is it?" And I left because, she should know that. But anyway, so with that definition, we'll move on to the dad jokes of the week. I went into a pet shop the other day, and I wanted to, buy a goldfish. Say, "Can I buy a goldfish?" And the guy said, "Yeah, do you want an aquarium?" I said, "I don't care what star sign it is." If anybody's ever heard the great pun guy's name was Kip Adada. He had a great song called Wet Dreams. That was all fish puns like that. Classic song. If you ever want to look it up on YouTube. And then he had another one called Life in the Slaw Lane. That was all vegetable puns. I'll have to pick those. Yeah, I'll make those a couple picks too. Back to the dad jokes. So simple question. Why should you never brush your teeth with your left hand? because a toothbrush works better.
On that one, you got me once on Twitter. I forgot about it. You got me again.
And then it's like the one where I was washing the car with my son the other day, and he said, "Dad, can't we use a sponge instead?" And then finally, going back to the psychic, I actually had an appointment next week with my psychic, but then she called and told me I wouldn't be able to make it. So that was a different one than the first one, who didn't know who I was when I knocked. So anyway, those are my picks, Chuck.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to throw in some picks. So I usually pick a board game or a card game or something like that. I just barely. What was that? It's called Skyjo. My mom had it. We went up and we were hanging out at the Heber Valley camp, which is another pick I'm going to put in there. But here, let me look it up real quick so I can tell you the complexity score on it. But anyway, so Skyjo is kind of like, it's kind of like gnoming around. I picked that one, or golf, if you've played golf with just regular cards. So with Skyjo, you have a field of 16 cards, and if you get 3 in a row, then you can get rid of them, right? So if you have 3 10s or 3 8s, diagonally or horizontally, you can get rid of those, and it counts as 0 on your tableau. For the rest of it, you're just trying to get the lowest value cards, and whoever has the lowest. So when somebody flips over their last card, everybody else gets one more turn to try and get their score lower, and then you get your score. But if you go out first and you're not the lowest, then there was some penalty. You got like your negative score flipped to positive, and you got penalized double or something like that. Anyway, so it was fun. You can play 2 to 6 players. We played with 4 or 5, and that seemed to be pretty good. Fast game, 15, 20, 30 minutes. Skyjo actually, or Board Game Geek actually says it can go to 45 minutes. I'm assuming that's with 6 people. And it has a board game weight of 1.08. So that's a very, very simple game. And this is one that I think that she had like the 7-year-olds and stuff playing it. So anyway, it's Skyjo, the word Skyjo. I guess it's been out for a while, but fun game. And then, I'm going to pick another game because I played this one last Wednesday with my buddies. I'll have to look it up because I can't remember what it's called. But I'll pick it in a second. So Heber Valley Camp, we went out there. They have cabins that you can stay in, and it's not proper camping, right? Because you stay in a cabin. It's not air conditioned, but that's they have bunks in it, in the cabins, and a fire pit and a pavilion for you to eat under, and they provide camp stoves, and in the pavilion there's actually a refrigerator so you can put your food in it, right? So anyway, that's all to say that it was a ton of fun. So we stayed there, and that was cool. And then a couple other picks. So Heather, my wife, and I, on Tuesday, I think, we decided to go do a double feature, which means we bought 2 movie tickets each. We went and saw Sound of Freedom, and then we saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And the Indiana Jones, I have to say, I was disappointed by Crystal Skull. I just wanted more. It didn't have all of the feels that I got from the original 2 or 3, depending on how you rate that. Indiana Jones's. And this one had a little bit more of kind of the nostalgia in it, but I didn't think the plot was particularly strong. And the other thing is that half the fun was watching Indiana Jones do these like probability defying stunts, and Harrison Ford's like 80 something. And so, you don't see that as much. And, the woman that was in it, that was his goddaughter, and, the little kid, you just don't see as much of that either. And so it was good. Like, it was, I wasn't disappointed at what we spent to go see it, but it's definitely not of the caliber of the original ones that I grew up watching. As far as Sound of Freedom goes, it was amazing. And it really, I mean, I have to say some parts of it were hard to watch, right? Because you know,
I was crying through most of the movie.
Yeah, they don't show you like the you know, but they kind of, you know, you can see it coming, and then they go to the next scene. You know, the really what would have been a graphic part of the movie, you know, where they're actually abusing those kids.
Or when he's typing up the transcript at the beginning of the video.
Yeah, so they don't expose you to a lot of that.
Yeah.
But you can see it and feel it coming. And I'll tell you, you know, I've donated to Operation Underground Railroad a couple of times, and I've gone and looked into them, and they're a solid group, and I'm glad the movie came out. If you haven't seen it, you really need to go see it.
I would say it's like Schindler's List in that you need to see it, but you should not want to see it.
Yeah.
And I think compared to Schindler's List, this is actually it's a harder hitter.
Right.
Now, what amazes me about this movie, though, is the blowback that it's getting. Oh, this is made up. This isn't really true. You're just trying to tug at hearts.
Weird, because I watched the movie and I thought that maybe there was going to be some sort of like, you know, message driven, like they're going to have really cheesy dialogue to say like, and the government's doing it, but there was none of that. It was like a Colombian drug lord.
Yeah,
it's like the guy. Yeah, it
just blew my mind.
Yeah,
but
it has Jim Caviezel in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's pretty close to how because I've heard some interviews with Tim Ballard that came out, I guess, after the movie was made, but before it came out. And this seems to stick pretty close to how his operations run. So anyway, so I'm going to pick it. I think people ought to go see it. Like, I think AJ kind of nailed it. You know, it's about a topic you really don't want to know more about, but it really makes it real for you. I also wouldn't take your kids. I'm just going to put that out there.
And I think if you're a single person, you'd have a dramatically different experience than if you have kids.
Oh yeah.
Because I have a son and daughter that are a little bit younger than the kids in the film. And I just like, I can't even think about it. I'm going to tear up just thinking about it.
Yeah. I have an 8-year-old. I think the girl in it is 10, 11. And I have an 11-year-old son, but I mean, that too, right? You know, I'm watching that dad and I'm just sitting there thinking, I would never give up, right? It'd be like this guy, all he does is look for his kids. Anyway,
you know, a number of years ago, Chuck, there was a movie that came out, it was called Human Trafficking, that had Donald Sutherland and Mira Sorvino in it. And it's probably been 10, 15 years. And it was the plot was similar. It was that there was an American couple that was living in or vacationing in Southeast Asia somewhere. I don't remember where. And it was about them tracking this, you know, what's the term you want to syndicate, whatever, down and getting this girl back as well as other ones. And so the plot was very similar. And there was also a scene in there at the beginning that I want to say was somewhere Southeast Asia. I don't remember the specific country, where it showed a family who literally, to get by, had to sell one of their little girls, you know, to this syndicate that they were tracking throughout the movie. So it was a heartbreaking movie. And I remember when it came out, and I think it might have been made for TV, but it didn't get quite the play that Sound of Freedom has gotten. But it's very similar. And it's a really good movie if you ever want to watch that as well.
Yep. So I'm going to pick one more in this vein, and then I will talk about the other game because I found it on Amazon. So the other film, this is related because it is also about Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad. It's called Operation Toussaint. And it's another mission that Tim went on. This one was done. It was commissioned and done by Russell Brunson, if you know who he is. He's actually owns ClickFunnels. Started ClickFunnels. He's the marketing genius behind that. And like every year at their conference, they donate thousands of dollars to Operation Underground Railroad. But yeah, it's a documentary, right? So it actually, you know, it's not a dramatization like it is in Sound of Freedom, but it's also really, really good. It came out in 2018, I think. and you can get it on Amazon. You can rent it for like $2. But it's also really good. So if you're looking for a little bit more, you want to know more about the organization or about human trafficking, and if I remember right, I don't remember if they actually found it's been a long time since I've seen it. If they found the kid or anyway, but it's really good, and it goes into how they actually operate. So I'm going to pick those, and then just going back to a more lighthearted topic. So the other board game, it's called Living Forest. I actually played it. It's funny because it's like ages 8+, blah blah blah. I played it with two 40-year-old, 40-ish old dudes like me, and we had a really really good time. It was awesome. Effectively, what you're doing is there's like this fire spirit that's generating fire, and you're trying to build up the animals and trees in your forest faster than the other nature spirits who are the other players. And so you place trees, you place animals. The animals give you resources, to place more trees or get more water, or so you can put out fires. And anyway, when you get 12 tokens of the same kind, the game ends. Everybody else gets to finish out the round, and then anybody who got 12 tokens is considered having won, I guess. But then there's a tiebreaker, and that's just all of the tokens that count toward your. So if you have 12 Lotus tokens, and somebody else has 12 fire tokens, then you count up your fire tokens and your Lotus tokens and your trees, and right, and whoever has the highest score wins. That's the tiebreaker. So anyway, it was super fun. Really enjoyed it. Let me find it on. It came out 2 years ago, and it has a board game weight of 2.21. So yeah, pretty run of the mill game. It really wasn't that complicated. Had a good time. It says 8+. Oh, it says 10+ on Board Game Geek. I was going to say, I don't know if my 8-year-old could play it without help. I mean, she could play it and she'd understand the concepts, but I don't think she could win it. So anyway, those are my picks. Sorry, I went so long, but I got feedback on one of my picks. Julien, what are your picks?
No, okay, so picks can be like anything you like recently. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Anything at all.
All right, so I became addicted to a series on Netflix. It's called Manifest. It's a plane that takes off and disappear, and then they land 5 years later. Nobody knows why, and so that's the main mystery, and then like the subplot, and so as a YouTuber, so like when I watch videos on Netflix, I always like analyze things and like try to see what I can learn from my own videos. So there are like two purposes to this, like entertainment and educational.
In the 3000, I think it's called.
What about the 3000?
It's very similar. It's very similar to this show. People disappear and they come back later, and then they have special abilities and they're trying to figure out what happened. I was just wondering if you'd heard that show. I think it's called the 3000, but you might also like that since you like. I already forgot the name of it. What's that one called? What's the one you just said? What's that one called again?
Manifest.
Manifest. Yeah. Since you like Manifest, you might like. I think it's called the 3000, or maybe it's the 3300, or it's something. It's some number. The 4400.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out. Thanks.
4400. That's what it's called.
Yeah, but it's funny how they catch your attention. Like I watched maybe like the first half of the episode like a few months ago, but I wasn't paying attention. And then the second time I watched, like I became aware of that the mystery, and then you hooked. You're like, oh, like why it disappear, and that's it. That's how they hook you for the whole thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Looks like we lost Chuck for some reason. Not sure what happened there. Technical difficulties, I guess. Thank you for coming on, Julien. I think we already covered where people can reach you and give you money and yell at you on Twitter, right?
Wait,
Yes.
wait, no, we forgot to ask him where his QR code is,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we can
Where-
scan him money.
No. What is my favorite pick of crypto? I have none.
Okay, you're a generalist. All right,
Yeah.
good deal.
Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you, Julian. It's probably now about 3:00 in the morning your time. So
Yeah. All right, guys. So yeah,
we'll let you
thanks
get
for
going.
thanks for having me on the show. All right. Have a good day. Bye.
all right, and
Yeah.
we will talk at you all next time on JavaScript Jabber.
Adios.